How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we're gonna be obviously we're gonna be going over the 2024 schedule again, and we're gonna be basically talking about potential trap games this year. All right. So obviously, as you guys know, the 2024 schedule is not again. It's not like nothing like difficult. Like it's really not that hard necessarily. But there is a lot of tough teams, like I was saying, Texas A&M week one, Louisville, Florida State, of course, because I'm assuming Florida State's going to be ranked when we play them. And Louisville, I don't really expect them to be ranked um, at all. Maybe they will be. I don't know if they're in the top 25 or not, but they could be ranked as well. Maybe in the top 25. But anyways, so I'm going to talk about the potential trap game that really could a game that we could lose. All right, and this is basically like a potential like upset. Now, a lot of people don't really see this happening or anything. I don't really see it happening. Um, but the game that I'm talking about is obviously none other than Georgia Tech. Now, the Georgia Tech game, I know you guys think that okay, Georgia Tech, they're not that good. All right, well, Georgia Tech is actually in a rebuild mode right now, and Georgia Tech could be that game where it could be like Duke last year. And I'm not saying that it is, not saying that Georgia Tech is going to be somehow just a great team or anything, because I'm not big on Georgia Tech. I don't think they're going to be that great this year. Um, that's just my opinion. They haven't really done anything, and like I don't even know how long it's been since. But anyways, I don't think Georgia Tech is going to be that great this year. I really don't. But that's a game where it could really bite you in the ass, you know, especially a team like, I mean, we seen last year when we faced Duke, and of course, yeah, that could have had a lot to do with maybe an emotional, because obviously we lost to Ohio State at the last minute, you know, and that had a lot of emotion. Maybe the players were just emotional about that, and it just carried on into the Duke game, and then that's why it was came down. That's why that Duke game I think was a nail biter, and also Duke was I think pretty good as well. Like Duke was pretty good, but okay, like Georgia Tech is one of those teams. Even though I don't think they're going to be that great this year, I definitely think that they're one of those teams that you have to watch out for, because I guess because they are in a rebuild mode, as I was just saying, and who's to say that they can't potentially get an upset, you know? And they're one of the teams that I think they could get like they could definitely get the upset. And this game, as you guys know, is at Mercedes Benz, of course. So it's not in Atlanta or anything, but it's in at Mercedes Benz Stadium. But yeah, so this Georgia Tech game is definitely one that you really, really, really have to. You got to take all these games seriously. All right, that's all I got to say. You got to take all these games seriously. I mean, last year we seen a lot of improvement. Um, with we didn't have a Marshall loss, we didn't have a Stanford loss or anything, which that was good to see. That was good to see that Marcus Freeman finally figured that part out. That you know we finally got we started beating, destroying the cupcakes, like, and that's exactly what we did last year. Like we beat the teams that we were supposed to beat, you know, in terms of like cupcakes. So, I mean that part is good. I think Marcus Freeman got that figured out. But it's just like, are you going to be able to? What to say if we beat Texas A&M? Are you going to be able to carry on? Are you going to be able to win the rest of your games? Like, that's the main question. Because a lot of these teams, again, they're very capable of getting upset. I mean, Louisville beat us last year, which that game was pretty tough for us. And then obviously, we lost to Clemson as well, which Clemson was a terrible team last year, and we lost to them. But that had a lot to do with just the bad play calling as well, and just I think Parker with his inexperience, that could have had a lot to do with that. But so anyways, yeah. So I think that this Georgia Tech game. No, I'm not big on Georgia Tech this year. I'm really not. Like, I don't really think that they're gonna be like a. I mean, could they be a 10-win team for sure? They could definitely be a 10-win team this year, maybe even a 9-win team. But I don't think that they're gonna be anything like I don't think they're gonna like win the ACC or anything like that. Like, um, that's just my opinion. But anyway, that's a game that you gotta really watch out for, and that's the game that really nobody's talking about right now. Like in terms of like potential like upsets, like a potential trap game. Um, even though like yeah, Georgia Tech, okay, yeah, they're not that great again, but it goes back to what I was just saying. Like you got to take every opponent seriously, you know. And last year, I think they learned a lot from last year. So I don't envision that happening. I don't think that Notre Dame is going to lose to Georgia Tech or anything like that. But Georgia Tech, we see a lot of crazy stuff happen in college football. We see a lot of crazy stuff. Like last year, we lost to uh, Louisville on the road. We lost to Clemson, which nobody expected that because we beat USC before we lost to Clemson. So it was like, and that part needs to be fixed. What to say, if we do good against one team, we need to be more consistent, you know, and not be good one week and then the next week come out and just not play good at all. So I think that's us the main thing, going into this year is just, consistency is the key. I think the consistency is like the biggest thing. Like, you know, um, and that's something that Marcus Freeman still got to do. Like, he's got to be more consistent. But other than that, I think that I don't. This Georgia Tech game, it's not really. They don't really worry me that much, to be honest, because we beat them more times than we don't. Um, the last time we faced them, we shut them out. It was like 55-0. So I mean, I'm not really worried about them beating us or anything, because we always beat them more times than we don't. So I mean, it's not really that big. I don't think it's not a game that I'm really worried about. But it could be a trap game. You know what I mean? And again, Marshall wasn't that good. Stanford wasn't supposed to be that good, right? So you got to take that into account too. Like, just because these teams may be not that great, they may turn out to be good. Uh, so that's the reason why you always gotta take them seriously and take all these games seriously. Which I mean, last year they did pretty good. There was a lot of improvement, but you know, obviously the Ohio State game, okay, that was a nail biter. We should have won that game, in my opinion. The Duke game came down to that was a nail biter, excuse me, and we won that game. Um, Louisville game we lost. Because obviously, but I think that has a lot to do with the way the schedule was. Like the way the schedule was, like the schedule wasn't really like spread. It wasn't spread out, and they didn't really get much of like a break in between like those games. Like so, this year I feel like it's more like spread out. They get more of like a break, So they get a break before, I believe, Louisville and Florida State as well. So, I mean, that really helps a lot. Um, so yeah, I definitely think that that definitely helps a lot. It's definitely the schedule's done. I think it's done like it's way better in my opinion. Like because they get a break as opposed to not getting a break. Let's just say they don't get a bye and they have to go face like Louisville, Georgia Tech, and then Florida State, like all just in a row with no break at all. Like, well, that could hurt a lot. So I'm glad that they kind of spread the games out a lot more. Um, but anyways, yeah. So it's definitely a favorable schedule, as I was saying, like in my previous videos. It's definitely a favorable schedule, but however, you do got to take these a lot of these teams. You got to take them really like seriously. Like even Florida State. I mean, who's to say that we're going to even beat them? I mean, Florida State is definitely a top 25 team, if not maybe top 10, potentially. Anyways, they're probably top 25 though for sure. Um, but they could definitely be top 10 going into that game, especially if we're undefeated and they're undefeated. Well, that's definitely going to be they're definitely going to be in the top 10, and we probably will as well. So it's going to be that game right there is going to be a tough one again because but it is going to be at home, so that does help a lot. Um, but yeah, a lot of these games you just got to take seriously. The Georgia Tech game, of course, that's the game that I'm really looking at right now. Even though a lot of people are probably saying that, well, Georgia Tech is trash. I agree. Georgia Tech hasn't been good in a long time. I don't think they're great either. Like, but we've basically like beat them every time we face them. So I mean, I really don't think that they're really gonna be that good. But then again, it could definitely be a potential like Duke game where we have to like find a like where we like barely beat them or something. Um, but I don't. This is all just speculation, guys. I'm not saying that it is a trap game or anything like that, but we're gonna have some trap games in the schedule, on the schedule. You know, um, so yeah. So I just wanted to talk about like the schedule again. Talk about like potential, I guess, like teams that could get an upset. Um, especially Georgia Tech, as I was saying. Um, obviously Louisville again, which that's the worst case scenario. You cannot lose to Louisville 2 years in a row. You just can't. You got to get revenge this year. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe button. And until the next one, peace out and go Irish.